Welcome to our series, Impact Conversations about Impact of Culture in Relations and Intimacy. My name is Elizabeth Miranda. I'm a sexual health advisor for the sexual health team at PHA. And today we invited Nyambe. Nyambe is from Zambia. I'm going to start asking Nyambe to tell me a little bit about yourself.
Hi, Elizabeth. Thank you for having me here. Yes, my name is Nyambe. I come from Zambia. I've been in the UK here in Leeds for the last almost 20 years now. So I've an aspect of both lives in terms of in Zambia and in the UK. So thank you.
And you are from Zambia. You are talking about like impact of culture, and I would like you to explain how is Zambia. I know that's the nice, beautiful country in the southern of Africa, but tell me a little bit about Zambia and the culture in Zambia.
Well, Zambia is it's a former colony of Britain. So officially, the official language is English, but then we have so many different languages. In fact, in terms of spoken languages, we almost have 73, although there are about 7 main ones. But then we cross over in terms of a lot of cultural aspects between all the languages. We have 10 provinces, and we're a small population relative to a lot of countries, only 18 million people in a huge country, I would say. Yeah, so we have 2 sides. We have the colonial legacy, but we also have our own culture that a lot of people from all those groups exercise and have exercised over the time, including the fact that during the colonial times, some of these cultural aspects clashed with what the colonialists brought to our country.
So you like just 8 million.
18
million.
18
million. It's quite big.
Yeah.
And but it's impressive the number of language. You said like 7 main. So it's kind of like different tribes.
Well, some people would say some of them are dialects, so branching off from some of the main languages. But I would say there are about 7 you'd call main ones, and then there are all the smaller ones. But officially, yeah, we are classified as having 73. Some people say tribes, although there's an argument about whether they're tribes or whether they're just languages or dialects. But they are around 73 in all. Yeah.
I'm asking like if it's tribes because some areas you just speak differently and you have like actually different language, but that doesn't mean they represent the tribe itself. But just to understand better, inside of Zambia, if there's kind of like when we talk about cultures, you can feel like different cultures inside of Zambia.
Yes, because we have 10 provinces, and each province has got what you would consider a main tribe. Okay, but within those 10 provinces, in spite of the fact that you have a main tribe, you have also got smaller groupings. But each province can be regarded as having what you deem their own culture. Some of the cultures overlap, across the provincial borders. But in terms of the 10 provinces, they are all demarcated in such a way that there is some kind of, one main tribe in that province with smaller ones, but also one main kind of cultural following.
And in terms, we're talking a lot here today how these cultures and these different cultures will impact the relationship. How is like, for example, marriage is very similar to here, how it works. The people normally, couples, they marry younger, like older, how it works in Zambia?
Well, it depends because you remember initially I said there was a kind of a clash between the colonial laws and, you know, what pertained on the ground in terms of the cultural norms. So in some cultures, for example, there was no age limit. Up to now, I think in some cultures, there's no age limit as to when a lady can get married. Or people can get married, but according to the English law, there was a limit of 16 years. But in most cultures, it was a question of whether a girl has reached puberty. So the age didn't matter. It depended on whether their partner reached puberty, and then it meant they were ready for marriage. In quite a number of the provinces, the girls would be initiated, would go through some kind of initiation once they've reached puberty. So after the initiation, it was basically saying, they were basically saying, well, these girls or ladies are ready for marriage. But how they conduct the initiations, you know, differs in every province. In my province, for example, the young girls are taken somewhere, you know, kept out of sight of a lot of people. This was followed for a long time. I think things are slowly changing, but it's been followed for a long time, where the young ladies are taken somewhere privately, and they are taught by aunties and, you know, and other relatives, or, you know, in terms of what to expect when they get married, what their responsibilities should be, including all kinds of sexual issues, how they should treat. I think there's also some kind of, I think there was a lot of imbalance in the sense that there was a lot of concentration on what was expected of the girl or the lady when they're in marriage, more for the lady than the man. That's why, for example, in our culture, a girl could be kept in the house for a month, just being taught all these virtues about what to expect in a marriage, how to treat your husband.
I'm just so curious to try to understand what the aunties. Actually, the concept is very nice. Like, because sometimes you talk, all the moms and the aunties don't talk about relationship, how to initiate. Actually, the concept is nice. The only concern is maybe is the age. And what they are telling the girls, like, it's like more domestic things, or like.
Well, I think that's why I was
sex relation.
Yeah, it's basically everything in terms of the responsibilities in a marriage, and the roles and the expectations. I think in a lot of the cultures, one would say that you know, there were a lot more expectations from the ladies in terms of responsibilities and what you know than the men, because it's all leaning towards what, you know, is expected of the lady in terms of what they're supposed to do or not to do in the relationship. So they'll spend that whole month talking about the general responsibilities and the role, looking after children, and even sexual aspects, even questions to do with, you know, if your husband asks for this or that, there's certain things you should not deny them. So, and I remember,
consent. When they talk about consent, they talk in different ways, more like the girls cannot say no, or is how to.
Yeah, to an extent, I think for a long time that was the position, that the lady would not be expected to say no. But I think there is a recognition in quite a number of cultures now that in certain circumstances, I mean, you should be able to say no. That's why I was saying at the beginning that things have evolved, evolving slowly. Yeah, some people have stuck to the original cultures, but there's some, as society has developed, and we have a lot of, you know, cosmopolitan kind of lives, and a lot of girls and ladies needing to do something like working and so on. Some of the things have changed. This happens a lot more when, for example, the girl or the wife is expected to be at home to look after the children and
Mhm.
things like that. So yeah, there is a lot of that aspect about consent in terms of
Mhm.
the
That
expectation
actually
of.
is not a concept, it's kind of learning that just need to obey to the man. But another question I have, just this very young puberty, so a lot of girls, they can have puberty at 11, 12, so they're expecting to marry it at that age.
Well,
And with older boys, or what the age of the husband?
usually there would be quite a gap between the young girl or the lady with the person who's expected
Mhm.
or is going to marry the girl. But I think this was in terms of if you married because because of the two systems, you had a choice. I think up to now you still have a choice where you marry culturally or under what is termed customary law, or you marry under the English law. So if you decide to marry under the English law, it means you have to follow the law that says you have to be 16 minimum
Mhm.
to get married.
Yeah.
But if you can show that the process of your marriage has followed the customary way, then that doesn't come in. The only thing they have to prove is that the girl has reached puberty, you've all reached maturity, and you can get
Mhm.
married. And that is why, in terms of the customary law marriages, most of them are potentially polygamous.
Mhm.
People can marry more than one. But if
Oh.
you marry under the English law, if you choose to marry under the English law, where you go to register your marriage officially under the
Mhm.
law, then you're only expected to marry one. Otherwise, if you marry more than one, in that sense, you're committing an offense. But under customary law, you're not.
So
So that
how
has been a
it works
difference.
in Zambia, just clarify me, how it works in Zambia, these two laws, because these people are living in Zambia and you have like the religious, the custom, the tribes or the cultural laws, and then you have like English laws that is not even Zambia laws, it's not called Zambia laws, it's not it's laws for the government, Zambia government, but people will see just like English laws, right? How
Well,
did
well, it's it's called Zambian law. It is Zambian law because at the attainment of independence,
Mhm.
it became Zambian law. Okay, there was the transition from the colonial past. But what they expect, I mean, what was on the ground, what was obtaining was the fact that most of the laws that were exercised by the colonialists were English laws. And when we became independent, they became Zambian laws, but they're the same laws. We just adopted them. Our obligation was, of course, to change some of the laws we thought would not be applicable, but it's a very slow process. The
Yeah,
law
yeah, yeah.
development or changing the law is always slower than the social changes. So what happened is the system continued as it was, because in the colonial times, for purposes of administration, the colonialists found it easier to let people continue with their own customs and
Yes.
cultures
Mhm.
while
Mhm.
they impose their own English values
Laws. Yeah.
in order to rule properly, in order not to break up everything. So
Mhm. Mhm.
they gave some authority to some chiefs. They left some of the leaders to continue as they were practicing their cultures. And at the same
Mhm.
time, they brought the English laws to run side by side. So after independence, we called it Zambian law, but it was actually what we had inherited
Yes, yes, of course.
from the British.
I understand that's like a law, like the government says that the law
Yeah.
is that, but people definitely think, oh, it's just English laws in a sense, someone just imposes these laws, but actually we believe that the right thing is this, or we're still doing this, although I know there's other laws that government says. But for the young girl that maybe she heard in school that she just allowed to marry at 16, and then in a home they say no, but you're already ready to marry because you're 13, you're ready to marry. How that girl, what power that girl has, like in a sense,
Uh,
or say or discuss to marry later, or
Well, I think over the years they didn't have as much say, but I do believe that things are changing in such a way that I was talking to a few people not long ago who were going through the process of arranging some marriages, some weddings, and they were saying most of the ladies now are waiting longer to get married, for example, because they're trying to sort out their careers, education, and so on. So in that way, they've had a say as to, what kind of marriage they're going to enter into at what time. But if you go to typical, maybe rural areas or where people have chosen to, to continue strictly with their cultures, the probably isn't much say there. It depends on the, you must understand that in African cultures, marriage is looked at as something to do with everybody, the community, the clans. The community has a large influence on the marriage, just as it has a large influence on potential on divorce. And when people divorce, the community sometimes feels that they are probably the ones that have let down the couple in some instances. It's the failure of the community for not teaching the couple to stick to certain, norms. They have failed in their teachings. Sometimes that's how they perceive it. So there's a lot of involvement of the community so the preparations, there are a lot more people who are involved. So there is pressure on the young girls or the ladies. These are family expectations. These are community expectations. And even when there's supposed to be a divorce, sometimes even when one of the parties wants to have a divorce, sometimes they want divorce, they'll stick with each other because they don't want societal.
It's a lot of pressure.
Yeah, they don't want to be perceived as breaking, the community norms or societal norms. So they just stick together for the sake of sticking together. They'll persevere. Whereas if you compare with maybe some of the received values, liberal values that we got, those are more. Marriage is more from an individual perspective. If people break up, it's because it's between the two of them. They're probably just not compatible with each other, and they decide at an individual level. But our cultures are so ingrained that it's
you need to, when you want, for example, to get a divorce, you need to speak with the clan first. You cannot just say I'm divorced now and then.
There would be a lot of discussion, family discussions and community discussions. I mean, there are a lot of examples back home where one of the parties, usually the lady would run away and go back to the mom and say, I don't want to stay in that marriage anymore. And usually the first instinct of the family or the community would be to say, go back. What are you running away from? We'll discuss this or we'll talk about this. Their first instinct is to try and preserve the marriage and then find out later what has been going on, rather than listen to someone's views at the first instance.
Yes.
So there's that protection of
even if it's like involved, for example, domestic violence and all this, the woman should stay.
Well, eventually, if those things are found out, of course, they may advise that this marriage needs to be ended, to be dissolved. But I'm saying they would, at the first instance, they will try as much as possible to see how they can get this marriage going. So the first instinct will be to no, go back. Let's resolve this. Let's do that. Of course, if there are serious issues going on, people eventually have to end the marriage. But this is the difference I'm saying in terms of individuals in more liberal kind of marriages. Individuals will decide on their own.
I'm just wondering, like, the role of the dad. I'm just trying to, because it's the daughter that could pass through so many issues, like the consent that is to learn, never say no, marry so soon. We always ask what the mom says, what the auntie, but actually the auntie, they are the ones that are preparing. What the dad's views in relation to this?
Well, the dads, the parents may have their own views, but they'll also be ready to listen to other members of the family. I mean, the uncles, the aunties. And remember, during the negotiations, when two families are negotiating or talking about the potential marriage between their siblings, a lot of people are involved on both sides, uncles and aunties from this side. You know, they meet for, in some of the cultures, the process is longer, in some cultures it's shorter. There are so many things that go on in between before they actually get married. So there are all those discussions. They're already talking about expectations even during the preparations. So that by the time they get married, the whole process has been a family and community process. That's why if there's going to be a divorce or there are threats of a divorce, usually the people who are involved in the whole process come in again. Oh,
and this figure of the auntie is like, it's a person, it's a role inside of the clan that is prepared to be an auntie, or is actually auntie. What this figure of auntie, how you could explain?
Well, yeah, I'm just giving that as an example. It could be another relation, but I mean, there are a lot of instances where, a lot of aunties will be involved. I think one of the other things that is especially when teaching the young girls in terms of sexual matters, it's easier to get some, other elder relatives and have the mom talk directly to them about those aspects, because they might feel more embarrassed or more. So if they get other people, and especially the fact that they consider the other relatives, aunties, or elderly family friends as having had the experience already, they'll get people who have had that experience in marriage. So they'll be imploring upon the young girls that they've got people who know what they're talking about. They've experienced this. We're getting people from, your.
And so they can marry they can have more than one wife. How many wives they can have, and how they all communicate? How is the relation between the husband and the different wives?
In some, like I was saying, in some cultures, most of the customary marriages, if you've gone through marrying through the custom, they are potentially polygamous. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to marry more than one, but what it means is that because you've married through the customary way, at a point when the man wants to marry somebody else, they can marry somebody else. In some cultures, they would seek permission from the first wife or the second wife or third wife and inform them that, somebody else I want to bring. In some cultures, they don't need to ask for permission from the first or second wife or however many. They'll just inform them that, oh, I'm bringing somebody else.
And they live in the same house or like different houses?
In most cases, there'll be in different houses. In the villages, there'll be, each wife will have their own hut, different houses around the compound for the different.
And the husband will just go, or he has like a specific house of his own, or he's just go and sleep in one house and then another one.
Yeah, he could have, usually he'll have his own, and in most cases there'll be what is called the first wife or the senior wife, and then the others who have come later, who have their own homesteads around the compound. It's similar. Look at although it's in a sort of semi-modern kingdom cultural way. Look at Eswatini, the king in Eswatini. I think he's got 15 wives. 15, yeah. He's the leader of the country, but he's because Eswatini has been it's one of the last kingdoms left in Africa. He's stuck. They have stuck to these customary norms. They've mixed with what they inherited from wherever. So they're still following that culture where the ruler inherits from the father, and then they also have to marry so many, and every year they have to add another. They've really kept that. But if in some of the societies, in some of the countries around Africa, including Zambia, some of these things have been wilted down over the years in such a way that some cultures are not being followed as strongly as before, although elements of them are still there all over, and there's that expectation. The way where people grow up and how they grow up is influenced by the culture in which they're growing up and where they are at that time.
And now, for example, there's a lot of people living in UK from Zambia. How they adapt? How they work out like culture and all these things that we're talking about, negotiating inside of the relationship, marriage, communication inside of the relation they have. How it works when they travel and they start living in UK and it's totally different laws, because you can just be there and then say someone, oh, it's English laws, or you're in your country anyway. Another thing is come here and try to adapt.
That's actually a very big, quite a big issue, and it's a challenge. What has happened, for example, in the Zambian community here, is some of them, a number of them have chosen to try and follow the cultures and norms from where they come from. So even here, we do get situations where quite a good number, in fact, in our community, where a mother will say, my daughter is about to get married. Can you, they organize as ladies. And here, it doesn't really matter where you originally come from, because they know everybody has got some kind of culture. So here, they will invite several of the ladies in the community to come and speak to their daughter, about aspects of marriage, because they do not want, they know that some of the children have grown up here. They have assimilated into the, English culture and norms, but they don't want them to forget where they came from. And they want to inculcate into them the good values from their own cultures from back home. So they would like to have their children grow up with both, rather than just move away from one to the other.
They teach.
So, yes, they do even here. And they are
but they don't marry. But they don't marry with, or they still do the marriage.
No, they'll still go ahead with the marriage. But what I'm saying that here in the UK or in
UK,
in the UK or in Leeds or in our communities, like our Zambian communities, they don't want the parents. Quite a number of the parents don't want the children to be alienated from their original cultures. So they'll still gather some ladies from the communities and talk to their children, especially when they're about to get married. So they try and follow some of the same old culture from before. And they'll go through the processes of what the expectations are and so on. And then there'll be a wedding as usual. Probably proper white wedding or under the English law, but the young ladies will have already gone through that process.
Even if they are underage.
No. Here, I should have explained that aspect is when you're in Zambia, because in Zambia it's recognized that customary law and English law will apply side by side. But here in the UK, you have to follow the strict English law. So there is no the age. You have to follow the age limit. You have to follow those aspects. I think there are a lot of issues with other cultures and people from other countries where they're battling a lot of things to do with what they should follow from their own country and what they should. But here we recognize the fact that here people have to follow the English laws. But the aspects of the process of marriage and the expectations, the roles and responsibilities and all those things, a lot of families still try to get this
to pass
to pass them on to their children.
In Nyambe, there's a lot of questions that I still want. I'll be here for ages, try to understand better the community, the Zambia community here in Europe, how it works. having different wives in Europe or in the UK, how we as organizations that work with communities from different countries, the best way to work with this organization and DHAs and sexual health, it works with pain communities, and we try to pass the message of prevention of HIV, STIs. And we definitely will need more conversations like this to try to understand the community, because the best way to pass the message is we talk and try to understand the other. If we don't understand the other, it's not possible to have a conversation about, for example, consent. If I'm talking about one thing and the person is perceiving consent like in a different way. So I hope to have another conversation. I'm going to invite you to have another conversation.
I think it's well, that's I appreciate that. It's just part of the surface that has been touched. I mean,
yes.
There's lots more. I mean, there is the issue of people not, getting to a stage where they feel they're not, compatible for all sorts of reasons, and some of the reasons which you've mentioned, when other things start happening to do with health, to do with, we haven't even touched on the issue of religion. It's also got a big role to play.
Exactly. There's so many,
whether in conjunction with culture or not. Yeah.
How you perceive the body, how you communicate each other, religion, how the impact of religion on this. We definitely need another interview for sure about the impact of culture. So we'll book another day. I'll talk to you later just to book another session to continue this interesting conversation. And for now, I just like to say thank you for accepting the invitation. And to remember that if you live in Greater Manchester and you're for BAME communities, you can ask for information and advice at pash@bha.org.uk. And if you need to order an HIV test, you can go to our website and order HIV test kit. That is very easy to do. You can do at home and then just post it and you receive your results at home. And you can order also condom and lube through our website. So see you next time. Don't lose the second parts of this interesting conversation about the impact of culture, Zambia culture in relations and intimacy. See you then.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.